Power, privilege, and privacy. These are the hallmarks of life inside the White House. But what truly unfolds when the cameras stop rolling and the public eye is averted? From John F. Kennedy's legendary soirees, filled with Hollywood's elite, to Franklin D. Roosevelt's secluded retreats at Warm Springs, these behind-the-scenes moments reveal a side of the presidency most never get to see. Even Richard Nixon, known for his stern demeanor, hosted gatherings that might surprise you. And Trump's lavish Mar-a-Lago events redefined opulence in modern times, while Barack Obama found his own private escapes to unwind from the pressures of leadership. In this video, we take you on an exclusive journey inside the secret social lives of America's most powerful men, where politics fades and the party begins. Let's start with JFK, a president whose charm and charisma lit up every room. Known for hosting some of the most unforgettable parties in American history, JFK's gatherings were more than just social events. They were a mesmerizing mix of Hollywood glamour, political intrigue, and scandal, the stuff of legend. Picture walking into the White House's East Room during one of Kennedy's iconic parties. The rich aroma of cigars in the air, champagne glasses clinking, and laughter echoing as A-list celebrities like Frank Sinatra and Marilyn Monroe mingled with powerful politicians. It felt as though Hollywood had taken over Washington, D.C. for the night. One event that still has tongues wagging is JFK's 1962 birthday celebration, where Marilyn Monroe's sultry "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" performance became an unforgettable piece of presidential history. It was the after-party at the Koreal Hotel that really captured imaginations. Rumors swirled that Monroe and JFK shared a private moment away from the prying eyes of the public. Did it really happen? Who knows? But the speculation alone added a layer of scandal to an already sensational event not to be outdone by the White House. The Kennedy family compound in Hyannisport was another hotspot for these exclusive gatherings. Picture this: sprawling lawns, picturesque views of the Atlantic Ocean, and a group of America's most powerful individuals sipping fine wines after a day of sailing. The atmosphere was relaxed, yet beneath the surface the air crackled with political and social maneuvering. Guests included not just Hollywood icons, but also journalists like Ben Bradlee, who later became the executive editor of The Washington Post. Bradlee's close relationship with JFK gave him a front-row seat to the inner workings of the Kennedy administration, making these parties a blend of leisure and political strategy. But of course, it wasn't all about politics. The real intrigue lay in the rumored presence of women who were not the First Lady. JFK's alleged affairs with women like Marilyn Monroe and Judith Campbell Exner, who was also linked to mob boss Sam Giannana, have been the subject of endless speculation and controversy. Did Exner really serve as a go-at for JFK and the mob? While the truth may never be fully known, the mere possibility adds a dark and mysterious element to JFK's legacy. Now let's talk about the infamous White House pool parties. Originally installed for Franklin D. Roosevelt's physical therapy, the indoor pool became a favorite spot for late-night revelry. Under JFK, these gatherings were anything but innocent, with JFK, his closest male confidants, and numerous young women enjoying the president's hospitality. Investigative reporters Seymour H.S., in his book The Dark Side of Camelot, suggested that these parties were wild to say the least. One can only imagine the stories that pool could tell if it could talk. The Secret Service, tasked with protecting the president, often found themselves in a tricky situation. Larry Newman, one of Kennedy's agents, recalled how women who hadn't been screened by the Secret Service were still given the all-clear by JFK's personal aide, Dave Powers. It became a running joke among the agents who would testify if one of these women ever posed a real threat to the president. It was all part of the high-stakes game that was life in Camelot. Alcohol flowed freely at these gatherings, with Jackie Kennedy herself introduced using the practice of having a fully stocked bar at White House parties. This move shocked the public, leading to letters of condemnation. But did that stop the parties? Not at all. The champagne continued to flow, and the stories continued to grow more legendary with each passing year. Rumors of drug use at these parties have also surfaced. Brian Abrams, in his book Party Like a President, mentioned instances of interns being given amyl nitrite and marijuana. Making the occasional appearance was JFK indulging in these substances. There's no concrete evidence, but these tales add yet another layer to the already sensational stories of his private gatherings. Furthermore, Jackie Kennedy's dinner parties were more than just gatherings. They were intoxicating experiences of elegance and seduction. The air was thick with an unspoken allure as Jackie shattered the norms of Washington's social scene post-dinner. She invited guests to linger over coffee, where men and women intertwined in a dance of flirtation and whispered secrets. The lines between formal and intimate blurred as the glow of candlelight softened the room, casting a warm, almost sensual light over the guests. One attendee likened these evenings to a waking dream, where the fragrance of lush flowers mingled with the sense of desire that filled the room. In these moments, Jackie didn't just host a dinner. She orchestrated a symphony of subtle seduction where every glance and touch felt charged with possibility. It was a deliberate contrast to the hedonistic pool parties. Jackie's gatherings were less about wild indulgence and more about the art of tantalizing restraint. And let's not forget Jackie's playful side at one birthday party. She recruited the chief usher to dress in drag and impersonate the house mother from Miss Porter School. These light-hearted moments provided much-needed relief during stressful times, adding a touch of humor to the Kennedy legacy. As we leave the glamour of Camelot behind, let's explore the warm, secluded hills of Georgia, where Franklin D. Roosevelt sought refuge from the relentless pressures of leadership. The gatherings at Warm Springs may have been more intimate and informal than JFK, but they were no less significant in shaping the course of history. Franklin D. Roosevelt's Warm Springs Retreat. Franklin D. Roosevelt's Warm Springs Retreat is more than just a footnote in history. It's a place steeped in mystery, camaraderie, and a touch of scandal tucked away in the picturesque hills of Georgia. This retreat served as a sanctuary where the 32nd President of the United States could escape the pressures of the Oval Office. But what made Warm Springs so special wasn't just the warm, therapeutic waters that drew Roosevelt back time and again. It was the sense of freedom, relaxation, and deep connection that he found in this hidden haven. Roosevelt's relationship with Warm Springs began in 1924, when he first visited the area seeking relief from the debilitating effects of polio. The mineral-rich waters provided physical therapy, but more than that, they offered Roosevelt something even more precious, a place where he could shed the burdens of his office and simply be frank. Over the years, this retreat evolved from a therapeutic escape into a personal sanctuary, where he could recharge surrounded by nature and the people who understood him best. The gatherings at Warm Springs became legendary, but not in the way one might expect. These weren't formal state dinners or high-stakes political meetings. No, the gatherings at Warm Springs were intimate, informal, and filled with laughter. Roosevelt often hosted close friends, family members, and trusted political allies. Picture this: Eleanor Roosevelt sharing stories by the fire, Harry Hopkins engaging in deep discussions, and Roosevelt himself, card game in hand, relishing in the simple joys of life. These were the moments that recharged Roosevelt's spirit, the quiet respites that allowed him to return to the nation's helm with renewed vigor. What made these gatherings so fascinating was the contrast they presented to Roosevelt's public persona in Washington. He was the indomitable leader, steering the nation through the Great Depression in World War II. But at Warm Springs, he was just Frank, the man who loved birdwatching, enjoyed a good joke, and cherished the company of those closest to him. Imagine the scene: the President of the United States, a man burdened with the weight of the world, shedding his formal title to simply enjoy a swim in the warm waters or a quiet evening of conversation. It's almost as if Warm Springs allowed Roosevelt to reclaim a piece of his humanity away from the rel-less demands of his office. But let's not forget the strategic importance of these gatherings. While Warm Springs was undoubtedly a place of relaxation, it was also a hub of candid discussions and strategic planning. Roosevelt and his inner circle would engage in deep, unfiltered conversations about the nation's most pressing challenges in this informal setting. Ideas flowed freely, unencumbered by the formalities of Washington, D.C. One might wonder, did the relaxed atmosphere at Warm Springs lead to some of the most innovative strategies of Roosevelt's presidency? It's not hard to imagine that some of the nation's most critical decisions were shaped in this secluded retreat, far from the prying eyes of the capital. And speaking of prying eyes, the presence of influential figures from various walks of life added a tantalizing air of seduction to these gatherings. Hollywood starlets with their sultry gazes, renowned authors with their intellectual charm, and even foreign dignitaries with their exotic allure, all converged in a heady mix of power and desire. Warm Springs became not just a melting pot of ideas, but a simmering cauldron of passion and temptation, where politics, culture, and diplomacy intertwined in the most intimate of ways. Can you picture the scene: a Hollywood starlet, her dress slipping provocatively off one shoulder, sipping tea as she exchanges flirtatious glances with a foreign dignitary, their conversation laced with double entendres and hidden meanings, all under the knowing, watchful eye of Roosevelt himself. The sensual intrigue and mystery of these gatherings only heightened the irresistible allure of Warm Springs. Roosevelt's children, particularly his daughter Anna, also played a significant role in the Warm Springs gatherings. Anna was not just a daughter. She was a confidant, a source of emotional support, and a constant presence at her father's side. She was there during some of the most critical moments of his presidency, including the Yalta Conference in 1945. In many ways, Anna's presence at Warm Springs was a reminder of the deep familial bonds that sustained Roosevelt through the darkest days of his presidency. But not everything about Warm Springs was serene. Despite its relaxed atmosphere, the retreat was not without its share of drama and controversy. Critics often accused Roosevelt of neglecting his presidential duties during his stays at Warm Springs, but those in the know understood that these gatherings were essential to his well-being. The retreat provided him with the mental and emotional rejuvenation necessary to tackle the immense challenges of his presidency. It's almost ironic, isn't it? The very place where Roosevelt was accused of shirking his duties was in fact the crucible where he regained the strength to lead the nation. Warm Springs also had its fair share of secrets and scandals. Rumors of clandestine meetings and covert discussions swirled around the retreat. Some speculated that Roosevelt used the secluded location to conduct sensitive negotiations away from the prying eyes of the press and political adversaries. These whispers only added to the mystique of Warm Springs, transforming it from a simple retreat into a place of fascination and intrigue. Was it just a sanctuary? Or was it something more at Warm Springs? Roosevelt's gatherings were as different from JFK as night is from day, where Kennedy's parties were flashy and public. Roosevelt's retreats were intimate, formal, and shrouded in mystery. But don't let the relaxed atmosphere fool you. These gatherings were crucial to the inner workings of Roosevelt's administration, and the secrets they held could rival those of any presidential affair. And just when you think you've heard it all, we'll take a turn into the shadowy world of Nixon's Case G compound, where political strategy mingled with mafia ties in a way that could only be described as the stuff of espionage novels. Richard Nixon's presidential gatherings. Nixon's Key Biscayne compound was more than just any retreat. In 1969, purchased his first waterfront home at 500 Bay Lane from his former Senate colleague George Smatters. Over time, this property and 2 additional homes became a sanctuary for Nixon during his presidency from 1969 to 1974. But the real allure of this compound lay not just in its luxury, but in its proximity to the home of Charles Bibi Raboso, Nixon's close friend and confidant. Rab Boo's residence at 490 Bay Lane, mere steps away, became a hub of clandestine activity, adding layers of mystery to the already secretive gatherings. Roso, the president and owner of Kiss Bank, was more than just a friend. He was Nixon's link to a world of shadowy connections, later indicted for laundering a $100,000 donation from Howard Hughes to Nixon's election campaign. Rab Bozo's ties to the mafia only deepened the intrigue. Imagine the conversations that took place. Was it just casual banter? Or were there darker, more complex discussions happening behind those closed doors? One of the more sensational aspects of Nixon's Key Biscayne gatherings was the involvement of mafia-associated individuals. In a revealing expose, Don Fulham claimed that Nixon and Rosso acquired real estate at bargain prices from Donald Berg, a mafia-associated business partner of Rosso. Can you picture the scene? A president wheeling and dealing with mafia-connected individuals in the confines of his private retreat. The irony is almost too rich to digest the Secret Service ever. Vigilant eventually advised Nixon to sever ties with Berg, given his criminal connections, but by then the web had already been spun. Nixon's involvement with other shady characters didn't stop there. The lender for one of his properties was Arthur Dazer, a man who consorted with both Teamsters President Jimmy Hoffa and mobster Meyer Lansky. These connections painted a disturbing picture. How deep was Nixon entangled in organized crime? And what influence did these figures hold over him? Questions like these fueled the public's imagination and added to the legendary status of Nixon's gatherings. But it wasn't just the mafia that added intrigue to Nixon's Key Biscayne retreat. This compound was also the site of high-profile meetings with international leaders. One such event was Nixon's meeting with German Chancellor Willy Brandt. This private meeting allowed for discreet discussions on sensitive political matters, discussions that could shape global policies and alliances. The secrecy surrounding these meetings only fueled further speculation. What deals were struck in those quiet corners of Kisan? What strategies were crafted far from the prying eyes of the press? As the Watergate scandal unfolded, Nixon found solace in the secluded sanctuary of Key Biscayne. It was here that he retreated away from the storm brewing in Washington. In a bizarre twist, the Department of Defense spent $400,000 constructing a helicopter landing pad in Biscayne Bay, adjacent to the Nixon compound. When Nixon later sold his property, including the helicopter pad, accusations flew had he enriched himself at taxpayer expense. The scandal just kept growing, layer upon layer of controversy. Adding to the mystique of this already infamous retreat, the legacy of Nixon's Key Biscayne gatherings extends beyond his presidency. The compound even made its way into pop culture. Remember the 1983 gangster movie Scarface starring Al Pacino? Yes, parts of it were filmed right there at the very place where Nixon once plotted his political moves. The original building may have been raised in July 2004 by Edgardo Duna, but the stories, the legends, they still linger in the air. Nixon's gatherings were about more than just politics. They were about power influence and the art of secrecy. With limited press access, Nixon could strategize and make deals without public scrutiny, allowing for candid conversations that might never have happened in the glaring light of the media. Imagine the whispers, the covert glances, the coded language, all part of the complex dance of power that played out at Key Biscayne. But amidst the seriousness, there was also room for indulgence. Nixon's gatherings were more than just business. They were seductive social affairs where power and pleasure intertwined. Lavish dinners served as the backdrop for an intoxicating blend of filet mignon, lobster thermidor, and something far more enticing, the unspoken allure of desire. Political allies, wealthy donors and influential figures didn't just mingle. They flirted with the boundaries of decorum. As fine wines loosened tongues and inhibitions, who knows what secret alliances were forged. In the heat of those moments, what whispered promises and clandestine deals were sealed under the sultry glow of candlelight, shaping the course of history with a touch as potent as any law from the tranquil, rejuvenating Caius gun. We now dive into the murky depths of another president's secretive escape, but this time the setting is far less idyllic, shrouded in the shadowy connections of organized crime and political intrigue. Clinton private escapes. Bill Clinton's Camp David weekends were anything but ordinary presidential retreats. They were the stuff of legends buried in secrecy and filled with intrigue. But what really happened during those exclusive gatherings, and why did they become so infamous? Initially, Clinton wasn't a fan of Camp David. He found it too remote, too quiet for the first 17 months of his presidency. He avoided the retreat like the plague, preferring the hustle and bustle of the White House. But as the pressures of the presidency mounted, something changed. By 1994, Clinton had found solace in the secluded haven far from the relentless scrutiny of the media camp. David became his go-to escape, a place where he could let his guard down, and perhaps let his hair down too, unlike his predecessor, George Bush, who loved hosting house parties at the retreat. Clinton preferred a more intimate setting. His guest list was tightly controlled, with only a select few invited to these hush-hush weekends. No aides, no reporters, and certainly no friends of friends. It was a time for Clinton to unwind and engage in candid discussions, free from the prying eyes of the press and the fear of public backlash. The timing of these gatherings was no coincidence. One of the most notable periods of Clinton's Camp David escapades coincided with the Monica Lewinsky scandal. As the scandal reached a fever pitch, Clinton retreated to Camp David, seeking refuge from the relentless media storm. Were these weekends just about relaxation, or were they strategic retreats, where Clinton plotted his next moves? The line between the two seemed to blur. The Clintons' initial aversion to Camp David gave way to frequent visits, especially after 1994. What changed? Was it the allure of the heated swimming pool at Aspen Lodge, or the quiet contemplation by the fish pond? Or was it Hillary's influence? It was she who surprised her husband with a Father's Day trip to the retreat, pulling him back into the fold. Hillary's role in these gatherings cannot be overlooked. She created an environment where her husband could relax and recharge away from the pressures of the Oval Office. And then there were the guests, high-profile politicians, business leaders, and even celebrities. Imagine the conversations, the deals made, the secrets shared in those secluded cabins. What really happened during those weekends? The secrecy surrounding Clinton's Camp David gatherings has fueled endless speculation. Were they just about relaxation, or was there something more? These private weekends, though controversial, were crucial for Clinton. They offered him a chance to escape, to regroup, and to plan. But they also raised questions about transparency, about the use of taxpayer money, and about what it really takes to unwind when you're the leader of the free world. What happens at Camp David, it seems, doesn't always stay at Camp David, as the laughter and scandalous whispers from Clinton's private gatherings fade into history. Another president's secret sanctuary emerges, a place where power met peace, and where the pressures of leadership were momentarily forgotten. But unlike the glitz and glamour of Kennedy's parties, this retreat was a world away from Washington's bustling corridors. George W. Bush's Prairie Chapel Ranch in Crawford, Texas, was more than just a presidential retreat. It was a 1,600-acre haven, where some of the most exclusive and secretive gathering of his presidency took place nestled in the heart of Texas. This ranch offered Bush a much-needed escape from the relentless pressures of the White House, providing a private and relaxed setting for hosting foreign dignitaries, close friends, and trusted advisors. One of the most notable meetings at Crawford was with Crown Prince Abdullah of Saudi Arabia in April 2002. This visit, shrouded in secrecy and speculation, saw the Crown Prince welcome to the ranch, a place Bush held dear, far from the prying eyes of the press. The two leaders spent hours in private discussions exploring their visions for the war on terror. But was this just another political meeting? Or was it something more, an attempt to forge a personal bond that would underpin US-Saudi relations for years to come? The Crawford Ranch wasn't all about serious diplomacy. Though Bush had a way of mixing business with pleasure, often taking his guests on tours of the ranch in his pickup truck, he reveled in pointing out his favorite spots, showing off local wildlife, and even sharing a laugh or two. Imagine Bush and the Crown Prince, not just world leaders, but two men talking turkey literally on the ranch. Who would have thought that wild turkeys could serve as diplomatic icebreakers? Yet behind the relaxed atmosphere, the Crawford Ranch was a hub of intense discussions. It was here that Bush and his guests delved into global issues, from the Middle East peace process to the fight against terrorism. These conversations weren't just about policy. They were about finding common ground, building trust, and sometimes even sparking debates that would shape international relations. The ranch's mystique was only heightened by the secrecy surrounding these meetings, with the media kept arm's length. The world could only guess what transpired behind those closed doors. What did Bush and his advisors really talk about? What deals were made in the Texas heat? The lack of answers fueled speculation and intrigue, making the Crawford Ranch not just a presidential retreat, but a symbol of the hidden complexities of global politics. For Bush, the Crawford Ranch was a sanctuary, a place where he could be himself away from the public eye, yet always at the center of the world's most pressing issues. Whether it was clearing brush biking or hosting a world leader, Bush found solace in the Texas countryside, blending the personal with the political in a way only he could. From the laid-back charm of JFK's White House gatherings to the mysterious allure of Roosevelt's Warm Springs, each president's choice of retreat tells us as much about their leadership style as it does about their personal lives. Barack Obama's private parties have always been shrouded in a veil of secrecy and speculation. What really happens when the former president hosts a gathering? The locations are nothing short of iconic, from the tranquil shores of Martha's Vineyard to the bustling streets of Washington, D.C., with guest lists that read like a who's who of celebrities, political allies, and influential figures. Let's start with Martha's Vineyard, where Obama's private gatherings have become the stuff of legend. Imagine a quiet Thursday evening, Obama dining at Beach Road Restaurant in Vineyard Haven. As the sun sets, he takes a seat on the porch overlooking the serene lagoon pond. The air is filled with the aroma of upscale cuisine, and the conversation flows as freely as the wine. Who wouldn't want to be a fly on the wall at such an event? The guest list is always a mystery, sparking endless curiosity. And rumors was that a Hollywood A-lister, a powerful senator, perhaps both the next night as fireworks light up the sky in Oak Bluffs, the Obamas watch from a secluded residence on SE View Avenue, while the crowds scatter across Ocean Park. The former first couple enjoys the spectacle in private. Whispers swirl about who might be joining them. Could it be an entertainment mogul, or maybe a tech billionaire? The secrecy only adds to the allure. But it's not all high-profile dinners and exclusive fireworks displays. Sometimes Obama just wants to bowl. Yes, you read that right. A former president knocking down pins at the Barn Bowl. And Bistro, the island's only bowling ally, picture him casually dressed, laughing and joking with friends as Secret Service agents discreetly ensure his privacy. Isn't there something amusing about the idea of Obama, known for his smooth diplomacy, focusing intently on scoring a strike? And then there are the golf games at Farm Neck in Oofs. One day he's hitting the links with NBA stars like Steph Curry and Ray Allen. The next, he's paddling across Edgar Toon Great Pond, perhaps contemplating whether to buy a sprawling estate there. The idea of Obama, once the most powerful man in the world, casually deciding on a 30-acre property, as if it's just another day. It's almost too good to be true. But whether it's a star-studded party in Washington, D.C. or a laid-back evening on Martha's Vineyard, one thing is certain: the mystique surrounding Obama's private gatherings will continue to captivate and intrigue us. After all, who wouldn't want an invite to one of these exclusive events? Mar-a-Lago Grand Ballroom is more than just an architectural marvel. It's the epicenter of some of the most talked about events in recent memory. Imagine this. It's Halloween 2023, and Donald Trump, under the shadow of a $250 million lawsuit from New York Attorney General Letitia James, is the last person you'd expect to be hosting an over-the-top party. Yet, without a trace of concern, he throws one of the year's most extravagant events. Because, of course, only Trump could do that. Guests arrived in costumes ranging from wildly creative to downright outrageous, turning Mar-a-Lago into a surreal wonderland. And in true Trump fashion, he walked in. No costume, no disguise, just Trump being Trump. Some called it the ultimate power move. After all, when you're the main attraction, why bother dressing up? He personally picked the music, and as the crowd cheered, it was clear. This wasn't just a party, it was a celebration of Trump's unshakable spirit. Then, out of nowhere, Melania Trump made her grand entrance. She had been out of the spotlight for 7 months, making her appearance all the more shocking. As Metallica's Enter Sandman blasted, Melania commanded the room with her simple dark dress. No need for Halloween theatrics. Her presence spoke volumes. She didn't need a costume to make an impact. The guest list was a who's who of Trump's inner circle. Donald Trump Jr.'s fiancée, Kimberly Guilfoyle, made a splash dressed as Snow White, while others like Lynn Patton and Trace Adkins added their own flair. But the event wasn't just about costumes and music. It was a reflection of the unwavering loyalty Trump inspires. Let's not forget, Mar-a-Lago has become much more than a party venue. Since leaving office in 2021, it's transformed into a political powerhouse, a White House in exile, where high-profile fundraisers and far-right organizations gather to win Trump's endorsement. Whether it's Turning Point USA's annual gala or America First Policy Institute's fiery rallies, Mar-a-Lago has become a hub for Trump's vision and the heartbeat of the MAGA movement. And while Trump's influence remains strong, so do Mar-a-Lago's profits. Membership fees skyrocketed to $600,000 in 2022, turning the estate into not just a symbol of power, but also a lucrative empire. For many, the allure isn't just the luxury or exclusivity. It's the chance to be part of something larger than life. Mar-a-Lago is now the ultimate symbol of Trump's legacy, where the applause never fades and the spectacle never ends. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our other content on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.